Broads Media.
Oh, baby, it's time to talk about the orange and the black. The orange and the black. Oh! All right, anyway. Today's show is sponsored by the Online Fitness Training Camp, presented by Chris Gates Fitness. Training Camp is an online fitness community designed specifically for sports fans to help you get results with your health and fitness without cutting out everything you love, like drinking beer and tailgating for football games in the fall. In Training Camp, you'll get all the support you need to build muscle, burn fat, and stay consistent with all your workouts. And at the same time, you'll instantly join a community of like-minded people doing the same thing. With Chris as your coach, you'll get top-notch guidance. In addition to being a massive football fan, Chris has been coaching people online since 2018, and his clients consistently get results by implementing a flexible approach to diet and exercise. So if you're interested in getting brand new workout programs every month, fitness challenges every month to help push you to develop healthy habits, challenges within the Training Camp community, like weekly football pick'ems where you can compete with other members to score awesome prizes, and so much more, visit chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp or click the link down below in the description to learn more and sign up today. Use code BROADS and your first month is $10. $10 freaking dollars. That's incredible. Check it all out. Thank you guys so much and enjoy the show. Why, hello, Flyers fans. There's a lot to discuss. Travis Konecny being one, Matvei Michkov being the other. Now, here's reality. I am all over the map in regards to how I feel about the Flyers and all of their decisions. One day, I can wake up and despise what they do. The next day, I could feel completely different about the same move made. I may find positive light in it. I may despise it even more. I don't know. I'm confused. And this is what I found out throughout this process. I'm not sure how Danny and Jonesy operate yet. Howie Roseman has been in town forever. Dave Dombrowski has been around baseball forever. There's a lot to go off of to understand who Dave Dombrowski is and the way that he moves in silence, the way that he moves when he's being loud. You can kind of understand tendencies. Daryl Morey. You know his overall philosophy and his overall approach. Keith Jones and Danny Briere are very new at this. And this is what I'm starting to understand. They may not be honest with the fans. And you may think, well, that's the complete opposite of what they say vocally. Or, well, that smells like a disaster. And, well, Howie's not very open and honest either. Daryl Morey is, I want the stars, I want Paul George. Dave Dombrowski, for the most part, is open. Howie Roseman's sneaky. He's really good at his job, though. But he loves to play the game, if you will. And I'm starting to believe that Danny and Jonesy are playing the game a little bit. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It means I'm confused, though, with all of their words, and I can't take it for face value. And quite frankly, while, yes, the fans are important, and we do want to know what's going on behind the scenes, and we want to understand your overall blueprint so that when you make certain decisions, we try to put the pieces together, and we want to know, is this adding up to what you feel will be the eventual promised land? They keep saying this is going to take forever, and then they sign TK and give him the no trade movement for 6 years, and then there's limitations on that for the back end of the contract for the final 2 years. And are they really going to look at a mid-30-year-old player as a contributor with that type of cap hit by the time this long plan plays out, unless the plan isn't as long as they're leading on and they're just trying to tamper expectations because Jonesy's been around this town for a long time. Danny Briere has been around this town for a long time. Whenever you put the pressure on yourself to win and to have these playoff expectations, your job's on the line quicker. There's going to be pressure organically. So there's no reason by words to put more on ourselves. So let's play the game. I hope this all adds up to you. I told you, I'm all over the place. So just be prepared that this is going to be probably a nutty conversation bouncing off the walls. So that's step one. I don't know yet who the front office is and how they work. I'm starting to inch closer to they are more Howie Roseman-like than Maury and Dombrowski-like. And look, they're all damn good at their jobs. Dave is a special president of baseball ops. Regardless of what Sixers fans think, the NBA world looks at Daryl Morey as a special president of basketball operations. And Howie has flaws, but is a genius in a lot of areas, specifically with money. He's an interesting cat. But they're all in the upper echelon in their respected jobs, so it doesn't have to be one way or the other. But I handle each emotionally differently. And I handle them when I dissect their words differently. So now, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Travis Konecny. Just from a basic level, a very vague level. 8 years, 8.75. He doesn't put up a billion points, but he can score 30-plus goals a year. And this is on a team where their power play is hot shit. Like disgustingly pathetic diarrhea. If they could get a below-average power play, he could probably tuck 35 goals a year. And then if they get an average power play, maybe it's closer to 37, 38. If Matvei Michkov comes to town, well, he's already here. Sorry, that's just automatically programmed into my body because I projected out to take a couple years until we finally see that beautiful 39 jersey flying around the Wells Fargo Center, that I'm a robot, and whenever his name pops up, it's automatically when he gets here. But now he's here, baby. Now he's here. I'm ready to be flyer. I can't wait to be flyer. I'm a flyer. I want to be flyer. Oh, baby, let's go. Oh, it's going to be fun. Oh, there's going to be a reason to tune in every night. Not that we don't tune in anyway, but I'm just saying for the masses, okay? You know I'm big on expanding the game to the more common casual Flyers fan because that's what makes this special is when we're all on board and we're all rooting for the same goal, and that's the orange and black mattering again. When you look at it from a very basic level, the contract, getting back on the main focus here. Maybe it's because the agent at one particular time threw 10 mil out there and everybody had their panties in a bunch saying that's way too much, and reasonably so. Getting the number in the 8, starting with an 8, seems like a win. It's an okay deal. From a money year level, it's okay. Yes, guys like Reinhart score 60-plus goals, including the playoffs, 50 in the regular season. And while some fans don't want to hear this, and I saw Jason Martinez actually break down some of the numbers when you sign in Toronto, when you sign in Philadelphia, compared to when you sign in these states that don't have taxes. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. The difference when you sign for $70 million, $80 million in a market that has to pay $1 billion taxes compared to one where you're in the South and, you're competing for a Stanley Cup, it does make a difference. It's not an excuse. It does make a difference. So it is on the higher side based off of his production point total wise. And I would like for this to start climbing more in the point per game range. It's okay. It's not a disaster. It's not pathetic. It's not a disgrace. It's okay. Where things get tricky, though, is the timeline. And I've always been, if you date back to some of my previous pods, a big proponent of, one, I want NHLers around Tyson Foerster. I want NHLers around Matvei Michkov. I don't want to have Matvei Michkov and Cam York and Oliver Bonk when he eventually gets here and Tyson Foerster, and you give Owen Tippett this contract. Like, the point of Owen Tippett having this contract is he helps change this thing around, and he's a part of the winning culture, and I want that around Matvei Michkov. So I do value that. I do. And another thing of it was, Konecny's 27? So 8 years. I'm bothered by the 8-year thing because it seems like we always get burned by the 8 years by the end of it, and it's just what it is. But at 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, I just watched them miss the playoffs this year, and this is where I get angry with the whole timeline thing with the front office. But then I also wonder if they're lying to us. This goes back to how they talk to us, and I'm trying to figure it out. If they're light years away, and Danny's trying to pump the brakes on everything, Matvei isn't this player that's going to step in and give us what you want right away, which there's truth to that, but he's totally tampering the expectations. And if he says this is going to take forever, we are years and years away, we're not even really getting started yet, we just barely got this thing moving in the right direction, well, if that's the case, then this contract doesn't make much sense. So I don't know if they really believe that. Unless they do believe that, and they don't know what they're doing. But I tend to believe that Danny Briere and Keith Jones are competent. That's still kind of up in the air. I lean towards they do seem to have some knowledge here. Danny put the work in. And he has shown some creativity and savviness in some of his moves. And he had to deal with a lot. Ivan Provorov, Carter Hart, Cutter Gauthier. Some of that's disappointing because I don't think Drysdale's ceiling will ever hit what Cutter Gauthier's ceiling is and all, but that's out of his control. I've seen savviness, and they are stockpiling a ton of picks for 2025, which is a deep draft. And, I didn't like the Jet pick. I thought it was a reach, but we'll find out. They seem to have the scouts to look at these prospects to build a draft board and go after them, and fine, we'll see. We'll see. Regardless, though, I was always in the mindset of, based off of last year, getting Matvei Michkov, only adding more talent as the years go. And guys growing, Forster should be better. York should be better. I hope Drysdale is healthy. But guys, it shouldn't be we're basing this off of Tippett last year, Forster last year, or these guys last year. It's get better, get better, get better, get better. So if last year they were right there and they collapsed because they lose to bad teams, awful teams, Chicago. Well, if you just won those games, you're in the playoffs. So if you're in my window and you demand to keep winning, which is my view on it, the TK timeline makes sense. If it's Danny Briere's public statements on the timeline, then it is a tad confusing. Because by the time we get to when TK's contract is ending and there's limitations in the no movement, this is where I have the issue, and work with me here. The reason they got the number lower than 9 is because of the no movement. The number would have been higher with the ability to move him whenever they want. If they have this long view approach, and TK by the end of this 8-year deal is somewhat at the back end where they feel it might be the best to actually go in a different direction or whatever, and you only value his presence now because you want the players who are young to learn what it's like to be a pro, to see how he works out in the gym every day, his work ethic on the ice in practice, when you're on the road, how to handle yourself the best way. If it's more of a teaching style, then why not rip the no movement stuff off and maybe make the AAV higher, make the years less? There's other ways to do this. I could potentially be thinking too much into it as well. I'm lost. I'm confused. I'm looking at every angle here. That's what I do. But at that point, I think you somewhat backed yourself into a corner with the way it's a 6-year no movement. And then having to ask him to waive stuff and this and that. I don't know. It feels a little odd. So the contract doesn't match the words, in my opinion, of Danny. Not with TK's deal. If that's the case, then make it, the AAV would be irrelevant because you're not handcuffing yourself at all because you're not trying to win anyway. So the AAV wouldn't matter over the next 3 or 4 years if it's just about his presence. So either they think he could be a great goal scorer still at the middle ages of 30 and still be a huge part of the team when they finally make playoff push consistently, or their timeline isn't as long as they are publicly saying it is. And I kind of hope it's the first one, and I'm now sniffing it out. I'm praying it's that. But there would be no reason to dive deep into this no movement stuff, and you could just make it high AAV, short years, go get your money, go do your thing, and then, you could go elsewhere after, unless, and this is a whole nother side of it, money. And I'm talking Comcast thinking about money. Matvei Michkov will sell jerseys. Travis Konecny, though, Sean Couturier may wear the C, but TK has grown up with us. Sean did too, but he grew up with us. Pesty. He grew his family here, kids. Goal scorer, energy, plays the game the way I would imagine most Flyers fans love. Is there anything to Comcast wanting to lock him up? Because in an era where the Flyers are trying to win their fans back and get everybody back on the board, if you will, get back on board, TK's a fan favorite. Regardless of how social media is reacting to this, we got extremes all over the place. We got people that are saying this is the best deal ever, which, no. And you got others saying this is a disaster, Danny Briere's a joke, and it's pathetic. And, look, maybe one day, I'm more willing to say that maybe one day we look at this contract with a lot more question marks toward Danny. I feel it could, if we're just playing percentages, land more towards the people who are negative, more so than the people that are positive. Just based off a gut feel in which way. If I can't stay where I want to stay, which is it's okay. And I had to pick between it grows into being like fucking awesome and this is an amazing deal, or dude, they really botched this. And I'm not basing this off of Chuck Fletcher. I'm not basing this off of older generations of Flyers hockey. I'm talking about what I think Danny is and what I think Jonesy is and what I think about Travis Konecny, what his ceiling is, how many points he can really start putting up, and how much more is there room to grow as a player. And you know what I mean? Like, with all that in place, it probably leans towards, well, this is going to be crap by year 5. And then we're wondering about that cap hit. I could be wrong. I'm just telling you how I feel. But anyway, it's fine. The deal's not going to crush you, I don't think. The vague sense, 8 years, 8.75, it's on the higher side for a 60 to 65 point player, and I would hope it gets closer to 80. But I do think there's value in guys coming in here, young kids that you expect to be the future of this franchise, and getting to see what Travis Konecny brings every day as a pro. And without that stuff, it's a free-for-all. And you do have to have some of those guys in there. Now, they're going to say, well, bro, if you're saying that, then why are you so angry with us that Scott Lawton's here? Go get the first-round pick, damn it! Gotten 75 opportunities to trade Scott Lawton for a first-round pick, and you're still not. Because his value's not worth a first-rounder, and you can go get a first-rounder, so go get the first-rounder. They're not getting a first-rounder for him now, though. Come on, man. You missed that boat. Jesus. All right, here's another part of it. Would you have rather traded him and not signed him to get more assets if he doesn't fit the rebuild? Once again, I always assumed they were closer than Danny is publicly saying. If he is not lying, and this is years and years and years and years and years and years away, then yeah, you can make that argument. Yes, you can make that argument. If I think by year 4 of this contract, they should be where I want them to be, year 3, then TK can still light the lamp for you and be a top 6 forward, a second line right winger, let's say, and pop in 35 to 40 goals a year, then yeah, I think it could be worth it. I hope you guys are following. And you know, you can already make the argument, although there's no such thing as having too many assets. They should be locked and loaded with their 2025 assets. Now, I would love to have as much as humanly possible, but it's not as if they're thin. If they didn't have enough in 2025 for this excellent deep draft that is upon us in a year, then maybe they'd be more willing. But they also might like the stockpiling that they already have accomplished. Can never have too much, though. Can never have too much. All right, that's sort of my thoughts on the Flyers signing TK. I'm seeing if I'm missing anything here. No movement, my simple and vague look at it, the length of the rebuild, would it have made sense to trade him? The front office being open and honest, not really sure if that's true. Okay, yeah, I think I pretty much hit on all my bullet points. We have anytime hotline calls. We got some audio as well from Danny Briere, Matvei Michkov. I actually like this one. John Clark caught up with Danny Briere at, I don't think they call it the skate zone anymore, do they? I don't think it's called the skate zone. Is it the Flyers Training Center? Look, my whole life I grew up playing in the area, and it was Flyers Skate Zone. It's always going to be Flyers Skate Zone, whether you like it or not. So why don't we hear from Danny Briere talking about Matvei Michkov's arrival? I mean, you got the GM and the president picking him up at the airport, walking down the whole entire airport, holding his sticks like it's his father. Big-ass smiles, Jonesy making memes in the background, smiling with his hands on his hips. That's not normal. So for Danny to want to like tamper expectations and say this guy's not going to, be what you want him to be instantly, that's what I'm starting to learn. That's what they do. They are going to be people that say, don't expect X, Y, and Z, but deep down they expect. They got billboards everywhere. I drive into WIP. I make a right as soon as I get off the exit off the Schuylkill, and the first thing I see is welcome home, Matvei Michkov. They won't do that for Oliver Bunk. They won't do that for Jet Luchenko. They're not doing it for these cats. So you don't roll out this type of welcome here, welcome home for anybody. So they're all over the place. Anyway, here's Danny.
I'm sure this whole process of deciding to draft him and then maybe hoping he could possibly come over early, it all came to fruition. How special is this day getting him to come?
Well, to start with, I mean, when we drafted him, we never thought he'd be here this early. going into the draft, we felt there was a chance he might fall, and we were willing to take that chance. Part of it because we were willing to wait. The 3 years didn't scare us, but obviously what has happened the last few weeks, him being given the green light to come over, it was very exciting, and finally this morning to be able to go to the airport and bring him back here, it's a pretty exciting moment.
Bring him home from the airport. I love it. You should see the smile on this guy's face. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Yet I'm supposed to believe that this is just some random guy coming to Philadelphia to be another Travis Sanheim. I mean, forward defenseman. But you get my point. All right. This is the conversation when there was the press conference about him maybe not being the savior. I don't know. It's interesting. Take a listen.
We don't see him as a savior. That's certainly not what we're putting on his shoulder. He's 19 years old. He's coming in to learn, to expand his game, and obviously we hope that the sky's the limit for him. But certainly not. We're not expecting him to be the savior of this team. We're building a team that's going to have many pieces to work together, and we're hoping that he becomes one of them.
Danny, let me talk to you. Okay? What? Nobody's buying that. Is anybody buying that? All right, so let's get together here as a group. And I do want to, seriously, as a Flyers fan, me and you, just chopping it up. Do you understand why I feel the way that I do about maybe them speaking differently behind closed doors about the state of the franchise compared to what they're saying to the fans and to the NHL world? Because there's no way you put on display social media videos of Michkov walking through, dapping people up, saying hi to little kids, petting their heads, Phillies hat on, playing the Nick Sirianni card, the Bryce Harper card of pandering. Like, this is not normal. And then, by the way, this guy's not our savior. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. All right. Anyway, I'll shut up. We'll take a few calls here. Let's kick things off with Sean.
Look, I'm the type of fan of sport that doesn't really involve myself with contracts and numbers. That's for Briere, Jones, and Hilferty to deal with.
Fair.
Konecny came up through the system, wants to be there, which after the Cutter-Gauthier debacle is important. He may not necessarily fit the rebuild timeline, but they do, even now, have to surround Michkov with talent. I mean, you're hitching your wagon to the future of this franchise to Matvei Michkov. You basically have to kiss his ass. You can't give him total garbage to play with and expect the kid to succeed. Konecny, still relatively young, and he's going to put 30 to 35 goals up for you a year and be a pain in the ass for the opponent to play against. So for that perspective, I have no issue with it. I know Travis wants to be there, and I think most Flyer fans are happy he's staying.
Yeah, you know what? I think that that's fair. Honestly, I really do. I think that that's a fine, logical way to look at it. Essentially, Michkov is here. You don't want to hand him a pile of crap and say, go make something of it. As much as I rip Danny for his stance on it all, of like he's not our savior and whatever, reality is it's still going to take time to learn how to play in this league. Sure, he's played professionally against grown men in Russia, but some of the ice surfaces are different with size, and, it's a different game, and it's heavy checking. It's just different. It's the NHL, man. There's no league like it. So it does take time to adapt to it, and it would be nicer to have talent surrounding him. And look, Torts is a different type of coach, and to have someone who has played under Torts and to have an interesting leash with Torts, because Torts gives and takes with TK a little more than he does with others, I think it would be good and responsible to have somebody in the room who you can rely on to kind of understand how does it make the most sense for me to play and to kind of go out there with the expectations of how Torch wants to coach, because he's going to have to buy into that D zone. He's going to have to work differently in the defensive zone, I'm sure, compared to some of the ways that he's played in the past. So, let's bounce ideas off of TK and just the knowledge off of TK, and I think that that's important. All right, let's go to Amadeo.
Well, I think the one thing we never expected was Travis Sanheim becoming an NHL extension breaker.
Friedman.
That was probably the most hilarious way to announce a contract extension. I never expected that to happen ever. But, okay, Travis Konecny is a Flyer for life now. Contract-wise, length, he was always going to get 8 years, so that was never going to be up for debate. It was really just how much he was going to get paid. And with all the rumors, him wanting $10 million or something like that, the Flyers wanting something significantly less, I was hoping for somewhere around the 8 to 8.5 range annual value, maybe a little bit less. Anything higher than that range would make the deal not beneficial in my mind. They do it just a tad higher, $8.75 million a year. It's not terrible. It definitely isn't a terrible contract. You got to get that out of the way first. Konecny, I think they're banking on, with Michkov coming to town, Konecny finding ways to improve on his numbers. He is a 30 goal per year type of guy. Maybe now if you add Michkov to that case, could Konecny possibly surpass the point per game total as he progresses into the prime of his career? It 100% is not a terrible deal. Would I have rather moved Konecny for more assets? That's still up for debate. I probably would have moved him for better assets just because, I'm not sure how he's going to age out. But still, like I said, this is not a terrible deal whatsoever. Travis Konecny is still a very good player in this league.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So it seems like the consensus that we're getting is there is room to grow for TK. I don't know how much. Sure, his assists in theory could rise because there could be better talent around him, right? Because you look at his numbers, and if he's getting 60 points a year and half of those are goals, you'd think an offensive player, even with the goal scorer that he is, or the goal scorer that he is, you light the lamp 30 times, you're constantly in the ozone, you generate pressure, you put shots on net, someone cleans up the rebound, you're racking up assists while you're trying to contribute your 30-plus goals when there's better talent around you. So, sure, in theory that makes sense, but I don't know. I think he's probably more of, if we are going to get the best of TK on this deal, I think he's probably still in that range of 70 points, 40 goals. He's just a goal scorer. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm off base. I just don't think he'll ever be a 90-point guy or even a high 80-point guy. I don't see that. And that, I need goal scorers. That's not necessarily a horrible thing. If he's lighting the lamp 40 times is still very important, especially on a team that struggles on the power play and struggles to score goals in general. 40 goals is still very impressive. If he's topping out at 40 goals, I could imagine this $8.75 million not being a disaster. But I do think that we need to see more than the 30. It's got to be closer to that 40. And I don't think that that's crazy. I do think that maybe the 90-point total's crazy. High 80 total's crazy. But maybe it's 40 goals, 37 assists. What's that, 77 points? Can we get there? That even might be a little high. But still, maybe I'm wrong. Speaking out loud. All right, we'll wrap things up here. Thank you guys all so much for hanging out with me. Thank you guys. Love you to death. And I'll see you on the next one.